Hallo, das ist Miss Jäger, and welcome to another episode of the World of Tanks series. In our last episode, we were explaining the core elements and details of the British tank destroyers, which have now been added to the tech tree, and my god, do they certainly represent Britain in a good and more shining format now. I am quite frightened of this tank now. The 183 kind of symbolises how quickly you're going to die. Yeah, this tank is going to be very interesting to get, but it also has given Britain to have an extra element of tactics to be used now, because at first it used to be you'd either go really fast, have a kind of poor gun, but your mobility and your speed was your advantage, or your thick armour. Now you've got thick armour, admittedly low speed, but now you've got very thick armour and admittedly very low speeds at times, but at least now you can decimate your opponents with very good guns. Now, there have been also other changes to the tech tree, mainly for two countries though. First of all, you've got the Germans, who've got now a new set of tanks. Admittedly, these tanks aren't exactly good, though. I mean, for low-tier games, I'm imagining the first set of tanks will be quite entertaining and will definitely give a new player a fair amount of choice as to what he wants to go for should he decide to join Deutschland. But at the same time, the way that they're guiding you, it guides you towards a very, very poor and very, very, very shit weapon. I'm talking about the Leopard. This tank has been heralded as the worst tank in the game. Now, I'm inclined to agree with them because it is a pile of shit. Its armor is, I mean, to be honest, what's made it worse for this tank is now the fact that it's a tier 5 tank. Originally this was a tier 4 tank, so a tier 4 tank was what you're going to be bumping into. And this thing probably suited tier 4. In fact, I personally would have sent it to tier 3. But the Leopard tank is now a tier 5. And the tank that followed it, the VK201H, which isn't a bad tank, but to be honest, I'm not a big fan of German scout tanks. I'm not really wanting to go for them, so I'm not likely to make any videos about them. Now is a tier 6. Now in tier 5 games, it used to dominate the field. I remember hearing about it. It was like really a powerful factor in tier 5 games because it had a 105mm gun. It was a derp gun, but it was a gun that worked. But now it's a tier 6, which means it's no better than the AMX is. I mean, it can still do something, don't get me wrong. I'm certain there's a fair amount of VK201H players can earn a decent living off one of these things, but I'm seriously thinking that it's going to be a lot harder now, especially since you'll be facing VKs more often, you'll be facing T-3485s more often, you'll be facing, okay, well Easy-8s is a bad example, but M6s you'll be facing more often, you'll be facing, if we look at the French tech tree, you will be facing ARL-44s more often, AMX-12Ts, just generally everything is becoming better in tier 5 to tier 6, so a VK601, sorry, a VK2801 just doesn't look like it's going to make the cut very well. But of course, you know, I'm not a light tank player, I've not played this tank before, so I'm not going to say it's a doomed prospect, but at the same time it's going to be very difficult for anyone who's in this tank to really do a good on the field. Apart from spotting, which is a good position, or is a good goal, if you will, but the thing is, the AMX does that and some. It's a tier below, and it's got a 90mm worth of gun, which does the job, in my opinion, far greater than a VK. Because the VK doesn't travel as fast, and it doesn't have the luxury of being a small, nippy little bugger. It's a big, fat little bugger. Its engine power, if you fully upgrade it, will be 650. This will probably mean that it could go up to 40 miles per hour, sorry, 40 kph, and maybe it will do good. But I seriously doubt it will be as effective either spotting or knocking out stray tanks as the ELC was. Maybe I might be wrong. I could be wrong. I could easily be wrong, but at the same time, I have a firm suspicion that it probably won't do as good now because it's at tier 6. So, anyway, back to the new tanks. For the new tanks, though, you get a new Tier 2 tank and then 2 Tier 3 tanks. First of all, you get the first mass-produced tank, the Panzerkampf 1. And Panzerkampf 1 is, well, I don't exactly know why they've done this, because the Panzerkampf 2 is, in my opinion, a better choice. You've even got another choice of the Panzer 35T, which is once again a better choice. I mean, if you look at things statistically, there isn't many differences between the two tanks. You've got the same amount of hit points. Technically speaking, the Panzerkampf 1 is slightly lighter than the Panzerkampf 2, but the engine power is worse than the Panzerkampf 2. The speed limit is the same. Traversity is about 1 degree better, so I will say it's the same. Armor-wise, Panzerkampf 2 has a much greater advantage in armor than the Panzerkampf 1, obviously, in turret and in hull. The standard shell damage is the same because they're using the same amount of guns. Turret traversity is 1 degree less, so technically speaking you could say that makes a difference, but in my opinion it just means it doesn't really matter. View range is improved in the Panzerkampf 1, admittedly, by about 20, but at the same time this can be offsetted by the fact that the armor is quite poor. I mean, I don't mind being shot at and I have to go a little closer to the bad guys to see, but I know at least I've got a chance at bouncing a few shots off my frontal armor. Not to mention the fact that when you're in the Panzerkampf 2 tank, you can upgrade the turret, which will provide 320 view range to the tanks. And if you back up one on that and you get to the Panzer 2 and you upgrade that one, it has the same armor. So it basically it's basically they're equally as good as each other if you look at it statistically. You know, one advantage versus another, but apart from that, actually no, I would say that the Panzerkampf 2 is better than the first one for obvious reasons, mainly because of the armor. This tank has light armor and it isn't really, I wouldn't say it's a good design of tank. I mean, you know, if you want to go on towards the Luch and the VK201H, by all means, but really the Luch isn't going to get you anywhere decent. Not now, at least. Which kind of is an inner link of the VK subject, but, you know, it's not a bad idea to introduce that, but I just think it's a bit of a strange idea. Now, if you are going down the Panzerkampf 1 and you don't know German tanks, which, you know, many people don't, you may go into the Panzer 1C, which is an improvement. Believe you me, that is a very good improvement. You know, it's automatic. It's got, well, okay, maybe not automatically a good improvement, but it's got the hull armor of the Panzerkampf. Hang on, it's got the hull armor of the Panzerkampf 2. So you're a tier 3 with a tier 2 armor. The turret is still the same shoddy design. Its speed is much greater. Wow, okay, never mind. That is a very fast tank. 8 tons, 150 horsepower, plus a tier 4 engine, 180. Okay, I might take it back. This one might actually yet have prevalence. I'm interested, believe you me, because that is quite a fast tank. The high-speed reconnaissance tank for airborne units. It's a bit like a Tetrarch. I mean, you know, fair enough, if you find that's necessary. I mean, I'm not a big fan of German scouting tanks, but if you're one person who wants to have a fast tank, then that is your matey, because that's quite surprising. But to be honest, once again, you've still got the disadvantages of poor turret armor. So, turret's worse than the hull. Bit like the Churchill. But that said, it's not a bad design. It's an interesting design. I like it's an interesting way to that Wargaming has done, but like I said, I'm not a big fan of German tanks that like tanks, so fair enough. This one is another version of it, which kind of works towards the Luch. If you are a Panzer II and you want to get to become the Luch or the Leopard, God only knows why you want to become a Leopard, but hey, maybe the name entices people, I don't know. But This one's another similar design. It's just quite. It's like kind of next to the. It's like a Lucius Junior or something like that. So it's a tie-in from Panzer II to Luch, which isn't bad. It's not a bad design. Let's have a look at the stats between it and the Panzer 1C. Well, obviously, the Panzer Ostiv G does have a little bit more hit points. Obviously, it's a little heavier, and of course, its engine power is the same, but it obviously can't beat the first one, the Panzer 1 Ostiv C in a race. The hull and turret armor are the same. Oh no, it's not. Panzer Ostiv C has slightly worse, 13 versus 14. The shell damage, because you're 20 Mike, is pretty bad. Turret traverse speed, for the Panzer 1C, it's 2 degrees worse. View range and signal range, pretty bad, but they've got an upgrade for it. There's like a new radio that's being available now, this one, which allows people to have 700 view range, and it basically kind of ties in all of the high-powered tanks, but once you hit the VK201H, you'll be able to have a FUG 12, which will basically make your tank the better, basically make your radio the best radio for most of the German tanks. So, yeah, okay, fair enough. If you want fast, light tanks, this is a good place to go to for Germany. So at least now they have fast, light tanks. But bearing in mind, if you're anyone who's anyone, everyone who, if you're a Total War, World of Tanks gamer, you'll know that the T50 and the T50-2 is a good scouting tank because they can last in a fight. They're very fast, admittedly not as fast as the new German tanks, but they are 3 tiers above it, and probably will serve more use than the tiers below it. You've also got the American scout tanks, the Chaffee. That's a tier 5 tank. It's got 530 hit points. It can have an upgraded turret. Its hull armor and turret armor are much better than the second one. So, you know, I mean, even in France, my ELC, you know, yes, hang on, let me just get an actual representation, because I actually have that tank. You know, the ELC, it's got very paper-thin armor. Yes, okay, it's not as good armor as, say, the other tank, so literally if you went into a tier 2 match you probably would end up getting ripped apart by multiple tanks, but the main difference is the view range is much better, and so can be the signal range. You know, I mean, it can be. I guess not. Well, okay, that was one downside, but, you know, the view range isn't too bad for a tier 5, and the signal range isn't too bad for a tier 5. This is often a suicide scout tank, but that gun makes a difference. That sends people to hell. The 90mm gun is what makes it effective, because not only can this tank reveal enemy positions, it can blow shit up. Whereas with the German tech tree now, it's like you can pepper spray someone with the thing, and if this like kind of tank went on to a tier 4, tier 5 match, okay, you'll have a very fast tank which is near impossible to hit, but it won't be able to do anything but spot. So, in my opinion, that's kind of useless. It's like nothing. I just don't find it to be useful. So, in my opinion, I think, thank you Wargaming for providing us new tanks, but I'm not going to use them because they are bloody useless in comparison to what I do have and what I can work towards, which is obviously Koenigsegg. So, that's the German tech tree for you. Interesting, but a bit stupid at points. Now, let us go on to one last part before we go on to the gameplay side of these things, which is a quick look at the new Russian tank destroyer. Now, this is one of the parts of the main changes, so I'm certain there's also probably a bit of updates to the graphics as well. There are new maps, just so you know, and there's been a removal of one of the maps, I think Dragon Ridge, from the games at this point in time. So, regretfully, that map won't be around much anymore. Oh, sad face. So, this is the tank destroyer, Su-100Y. It's a tier 6 premium tank, and my god, does it have a good gun. I mean, it's got a good gun in damage, but as you know, shit accuracy, long aiming times, but in this case, it's not so bad. You've got, I mean, obviously penetration-wise, it's not so great, but you're compensated for the for the lower penetration in the higher damage, because you've got a tier 8 gun for an SU-100Y. Aiming time is absolutely horrifying, and accuracy could be better, but let's face it, I've worked with that before, so as long as you know what you're doing by this point in the game, you should be okay. Hull armor as well, it's not great for tier 6. If we have a comparison, let's back out of here. If you have a comparison, let's have a look-see. So if tier 6, the SU-100, 75 at the front, 45, so okay, 60 all around. So Russian SU-100 is better at the front, obviously. Oh, fair enough, 45. It has very good armor. Obviously, we're going into the heavy tank legion, so 75 frontal armor, better in the front, obviously in the rear. 90 on both sides. So the armor's, you know, it's a low armor, but it's good armor. I mean, hell, in comparison to KV-2, 75 all around, except the turret. Let's go to America to compare. Let's see, tier 6. Obviously, the Americans have paper-thin armor, so I shouldn't... I'll go M6. There you go, 102 armor. Quite strong. British tech trees. I'm not trying to prove a point here, I'm just sort of comparing all the armor between the two. So that's quite thick armor, but that's British. Obviously this is paper thin, but it's slightly better than that armor. So, and if you are facing any VK players, bang on, 100 armor. So, although this tank destroyer doesn't have, I mean, in comparison to that, you might have Type 58, because I've been seeing a lot more of these about. Yeah, less armor. So, the Russian armor in this case is not so fine, but it makes up for it in its gun. And also, I think its traverse speed, yes, it is 35 miles an hour, which is pretty good, considering it's 67 tons. Quite a heavy tank. It's a very powerful gun, though. So, yeah, that's a pretty decent tank design. I'm not likely to get it, because although I enjoy having premium and getting gold, I prefer to use it towards whatever I can get. So, for example, in research, I can research a better tank, or in cases like, for example, with my Tiger, I can get the Tiger 2 and get the 105 gun and get to better ways. I mean, to be honest, I could be really cheeky, because if I look at all the experience I've got 126 experience, right? So all I could do is just add on the experience that I want, and I could potentially leapfrog the Tiger 2 and get the E75, but I'll be damned if I'm not going to get the Tiger 2 first, because the Tiger 2 is just a fantastic tank. But, so, when it comes to premium tanks, I'm less inclined to get them, because, I mean, although there are damn good designs, and I may get one in the future, I find at this current moment in time, I'm sinking enough funds into other things and other parts of my life. World of Tanks, I can go so far with, but not entirely. So, to finish off then, we will now go on to a couple of games, my first two games, when I was in my Universal Carrier 2-pounder. And I will show you, and these two videos will show you the traits and skills of the British 2-pounder. Now, mind you, this is a Tier 2 tank. It's got a Tier 4 gun, can go a reasonable speed, and has a Tier 5 radio. At this point, I hadn't upgraded my crew, so they were at 50% on both maps. And you can see the potential power that the British tank tech tree may have. See you then. And we're back. So, we have been in... This was the first game I had. I had an extra experience so I could buy all the more important shizzle first. And we're now going up for a UAC 2-pounder party. This was when the mod just downloaded. I came back on the day of release. So, understandably, lots of funky stuff going about. You may have also just noticed that I no longer have my Company of Heroes voice mod. I've decided to remove it because it was causing a little issue when it came to me talking, as I couldn't turn it down. If in the future I could find a way of my voice being able to override the voice mod any easier, or if there's an update which allows me to turn the voice mod down, then I will happily do so. But until then, I'm going to have to use the "we bounce staff" noise mod. Well, noise people. So anyway, as I'm trying to get into the battle, the match is already starting to go crazy, and somehow I end up damaging a tank from behind. My rear end was able to destroy a damage at the end of the tank. And already we're starting to take heavy amounts of fire. But as always with low tier battles, everything's going crazy, so sorry if I can't keep up perfectly. So, UAC 2-pounder, the enemy gets the first kill of the match, normally a bad sign in my books, and as I'm trying to sort of learn in through, I'm finding it somewhat difficult to get into the fight as fast, trying to find a way of getting any damage, and I'm like, oh, okay, I've got bad guys. I'm looking to my right, everything's getting a bit chaotic because of obviously a tier 2 match. I'm keeping my eyes peeled on my flanks because I realise just how thin my armour is, and so then I spot 2 targets, 2 UAC pounders, and my gun is aiming and trained, bang, completely misses. Someone does an extra bit of damage, I get another shot, bang, he's gone. There's my first kill in my UAC 2-pounder. So then I tried pegging a couple of shots at the bad guys, but by this point the game was already starting to wrap up. So now I'm trying to have a little look, see if I can take a shot, and the shot completely goes down south and fails to do any damage. So this is the little funny quirky thing. I'm actually that small that I can fit in this tiny little crevice. Ain't it cute? So now we're just coming up to the base to try and cap. It's been a very quick and chaotic match, and it's been quite entertaining to see. Well, it was quite a funny game. It was quite a silly game, but unfortunately I couldn't get to do too much in this. So now I'm just heading towards the cap zone to try and cap someone, and oh shock, someone's actually behind us. Someone's able to flank all the way around and get here within a good match, so that's quite good. So I already marked the location saying, okay guys, watch out, someone's going to try and cap. So at this point we're capping the base, and I try to shoot the car but fail miserably. So now I turn around, the traverse speed paying for it, so that's where the problem with the 100 horsepower engine is about. And now I start to wait for the UAC 2-pounder to try and come in, and he gets stuck. Well, he stops, he gets stuck on the point. So I think, oh, can I quickly nip out and get a kill? But unfortunately I don't nip out far enough to be able to get the kill, and by the time I finally get into position to take a shot at the enemy, I unfortunately he dies. So I decide to reverse very slowly, give up to try and turn around. By this point the game is pretty much over, and there you go. So although I didn't get to do anything much in this game, it wasn't too bad, in all honesty. I had maybe a shot or two before I killed the first vehicle, and that was a potential first short power of the game. So my first impressions following that match were, it's not bad, it could do better, I hope to get better skills in the next game, and I had high hopes that for a better game following. So I'll go see you guys in the next match. See you then. Hello, and we are back. So, we are on a tier 3 match on Malinovka, and this is the match which shows me the potential that the Universal Gun Carrier really has. Now, although I look outclassed in every kind of facet, because don't forget this thing has very, very thin armour, 10 armour at the front, 7 on the sides and rear, the gun that I have makes up for this factor tenfold. Now, bearing in mind, like I said beforehand, my gun is very inaccurate. I haven't got a well-trained crew, so it will not be easy to get land any decent shots. However, you will see in this replay just what kind of shots you can land if you had 100% true crew training with any kind of ventilation and gun rammer. So now I'm taking my time to aim. The first shot goes completely wild, and now I finally get a crew that works, and bang, we go smack into the side of that vehicle, Cruiser 4. I shoot through another shot, bang, I hit him. So now I'm sort of looking about, trying to sort of move up to make sure we can go up against it. We have a Panzer 38T and a Panzer 1C. They're all starting to camp, bearing in mind this is a lower tier match, so there may be a few people who don't really know what they're doing. The Panzer 38, I was hoping to be able to pen him because there was green signs on him. Didn't land any decent shots on him though. Our team is doing a reasonably decent job in setting up a decent front line. Our opponents now decide to try and push along the swamp line. Our Panzer 1C just shows how fast it can go. I spot a new target. Bang! It goes wide off the mark, so I give up on that target. And I realise that the UAC 2-pounder is there. Bang! There's another kill. Admittedly another vulture, but a good kill nonetheless. So there's a Panzer Ostiv A, gone, 71 shots. Bang! There's another one that misses the target. By this point, the tank, I think, gets knocked out. Bang! There's another shot that lands impact. So now that's when I realise we're starting to get pushed on the right-hand side. Now we need to try and hold our line as best as we can. So there's the 30A, and this is where I'm trying to make a pot shot. Bang! Ricochet. Not looking good. So another one. Bang! No, nothing possible. So this is when we're getting worried now. We're like, oh shit, Panzer 1C is on fire, and he blows up right. Oh, no, he doesn't blow up. And then Mr. Panzer Ostiv A, being a twat, reversed backwards, and then moved backwards again, being an idiot. Should have decided to move forwards a bit to try and avoid being shot. And that way then I could have escaped. So I was quite worried there for a second. I was like, oh, for God's sake, no! But luckily we got away. So this is where things start to get very, very nervous. We're winning at the battle. The enemy have only got 2 kills, but I could die. So worryingly. But then the Panzer 38 gets knocked out, and the Valentine AT, who comes in to save the day, shoots at the AMX, doing a lot of damage. So the game now looks like it's about to be winning on our side. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any shots in on that tank, but I was able to get other shots in. This is when we start going for the M2 light tank. Like I said, the aiming time, if I had a better trained crew, things may have been differently. Bang! I do 107 damage on an M2 light tank. That's quite a lot of damage on a tank. So that's pretty impressive. And now the game's pretty much over. We're just scanning for new targets. I'm trying to find something. Everyone's trying to find out. Then we have a look-see. There's a UAC 2-pounder already in position. Not really doing anything. Facing the wrong way. Probably went AFK. Gone. T-18 get him. A Valentine AT does something really weird. He decides to abandon his position and then aims at me for a few seconds. I miss, but luckily he ends up dying. So the game ended pretty soon afterwards. That was quite a close call match, in my opinion, because I nearly got killed. I took a nasty hit to the front there, and if there was any HE shells or any massive damaging modules, things would have become very interesting. So, for a Tier 2 tank, don't forget, this tank has shown a lot of potential for the British tech tree. I mean, think about it. It's got a 6-pounder gun on the top, so that's quite powerful already, but also it has a very good rate of fire. Its penetration value most of the time is pretty good, and even in a tier 3 match it can hold its own when it's not in a close quarters engagement like that was back there. So in all essence, that was a pretty good game, and after this I was able to have a number of games with a couple of mates of mine, and the games were very good. In most matches I came out with damaged modules, with so modules that had been damaged. I came out where vehicles had been shot and I detracked them very easily. Things like that. Yes, you could say, oh, but it's a tier 3, oh, it's a tier 3. Most of the time it was tier 3s I was going up against, and it was a fantastic set of games that I played. So, you know, this thing has a lot of potential, and I'm looking forward to going through the British tech tree. I'll probably make some more videos about that as well, but for the first time, let's get back to the World of Tanks garage that I live in. See you there. So, with those battle results in place, the Universal Carrier has proven to be quite an effective tank destroyer. I mean, at a tier 2, it's already showing the potential, and I'm liking it because of it. This gun is fantastic. 6-pounder. I mean, that's damn good. The rate of fire and everything's great, and after I upgraded my crew, it's done even better than before. So, yeah, if you're thinking about going for a British tech tree and you want to try out the tank destroyers, by all means, go for it. They are very much worth it. Especially when you hit the turtle. Immediately you've got to go through a lot, but to be honest, you've got the AT-7 as potential, and the AT-15, which is Baby Turtle. I'm going to call him, Crush Jr. or something like that from Nemo or something. But nah, like I said, the British tech tree, absolutely fantastic. Russian and German, Russia fares better off. Germany just It's alright, but for what it's worth, I wouldn't say it's a very big upgrade. And not a very good upgrade either. So, on that bombshell, there's about one more feature I was going to say before we head out. There is a battle tutorial, and hopefully it won't, there you go, battle tutorial. This is the latest thing that World of Tanks have introduced to this, and I have to say, it's very good. Especially since, it's something which, for many new players out there, will definitely need. However, there is one feature which I would highly recommend you ignore from this tutorial, which is right-clicking to aim on someone. Now, for many people, who rely on this a lot for when they're driving either fast tanks or something like that, don't do that, okay? Yes, it's not exactly a nice thing to have to stop, aim, and shoot, but in my opinion, if you want to get any decent and accurate shots, if you want to make any shots like I made in the previous one, take your time, aim your gun, then shoot. Otherwise, you're just going to be pissing through ammunition and not getting any shots at all. You know, even if you hit and ding, that means that you're at least getting on target, you know? You can try and aim for a shot, and if it doesn't work, then try another method, you know? But don't, for the love of God, use the auto-aim. If you prefer to shoot outside of your sniper view, then fair enough, that's how you do it. But don't use auto-aim. Sniper view is, my personal opinion, the best version. I'm kind of being diplomatic here. Some people prefer to shoot outside of sniper view. Other people prefer to shoot inside. I don't know how people play around here. But generally, sniper view is my favourite version. But don't use auto-aim. For the love of God, don't. It just won't help you at all. Just no. Anyway, so, with that said, I hope you've enjoyed these two parts. I have nattered on a lot, but I just thought it's important to cover all the aspects of these new patches. So, yeah. If you have enjoyed, please let me know. Likes and subscriptions. Any feedback as well, like did I ramble on too much about something? Did I just need to tell you the bare details about it? Let me know in that. Just typing in a message saying I was shit doesn't really help. Okay, I appreciate that you don't like the video, but at the same time, you got to try and, you know, give me a valid reason behind it. So that will be appreciated. I have other series going about, a Far Cry series, Shogun as well. I'm going to be recording that soon, or I have recorded that, depending on how quickly I release it. So yeah, that's pretty much it at the moment. So thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you again. This is Crab Hunter signing out.